Hello and welcome to the Doctors Who Read Stuff. My name is Chris.
And I'm Chip.
And I'm Brian.
So today we're doing something a little different. As you all may know, or maybe you don't know, the Dune trailer dropped. This is part one of Dune coming at us supposedly in November. And so, December.
Oh, December now.
Perfect.
Okay.
I think it's been December for a while.
Has it?
Probably. My brain is addled. Anyway, so
right.
we're going to go through and we're going to analyze the trailer since we've been reading the book, and we're going to see how things seem to line up. And all that is coming up right after this. If I can find the thing. There it is. All right, the thing has been found, and here we are. Before we jump in, we want to thank Nick Eimerman at N. Eimerman Design Company for our awesome graphics and logo. You can find him at nimerman.com or nimerman_design on Instagram. All right. Dune, trailer. Guys, what do we think?
I was wowed. I got chills watching it. I was pretty excited. I'm curious to see, in having, we're doing the reread of the book, and I'm curious to see where part one ends, because I have my theories, and I think we're actually past the point in the book where it might end, but I'm, that's something I think we could talk about as we go forward here. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but there's a lot of stuff that's happening, and the trailer seems to give a lot of images of a lot of different scenes that doesn't really give you much more than just some quick glimpses.
Agreed. Brian?
I was surprised they showed that much of the sand.
True.
That's true.
Yeah. What did you think?
I thought it seemed pretty epic. I mean, you can see. I thought the music that they had in there was a really good choice.
Did you recognize it?
Yes.
I didn't recognize it, but I felt like it really actually fit well with what they were talking about or what they were showing.
What's funny is it's Eclipse by Pink Floyd, arranged differently by I forget who's doing the music for it. Is it Howard? Not Howard Shore. It's somebody. But anyway, the callback on that is that that Alejandro Jodorowsky that was going to do Dune in the 70s, Pink Floyd was tapped to do the soundtrack for the 70s version of Dune that never made it to film. So I thought that was kind of fun kind of callback to.
Wow.
If it was, it seems for it to be a Pink Floyd song and stuff, it just seems like it had to be pretty intentional that that's what Villeneuve was up to.
Yeah.
But, sorry, I didn't mean to derail it, but I thought that was just an interesting
Hans
piece.
Zimmer had the score on this one.
Hans Zimmer.
Yes.
So yeah, so he did a kind of used an orchestra and a choir to, I think, remake the song. But it's Eclipse off Dark Side of the Moon. I think it's the last song on Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah, okay. So what we're going to do is we've got a selection of screen grabs from the trailer that we're just going to kind of flip through really quick, kind of talk about, see if we can place where they are. So up first, we've got what looks to be Paul and Jessica, and in the background we have just fire and smoke.
So I think based on where we've read, I'm guessing that this is sometime after the Harkonnens have sprung their trap. With Paul's carrying the pack of, what we would assume that he's got the still tent and some other gear in there, and he's looking back at Arakeen. My theory.
That makes sense to me.
That's a good guess.
It's interesting that's the shot he opens with, because I think that's.
Yeah.
I think the movie's going to end not far after that, because I know Chani's in it, but Zendaya has mentioned that she's not in this first one a lot. So.
Well, she would be in that premonition.
That's true.
I wondered if that was part of. I wonder if they shot a whole bunch of those scenes. Well, not to be too spoilery, but I mean, there are some visions that happen early in the book, and I'm wondering if some of those scenes are from earlier in the book than we think they are.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm also wondering. I don't know if they filmed this like they did Lord of the Rings, where they filmed both films simultaneously, and they're going to cut it
I
into two
believe they did.
parts. I mean, that makes
Yeah.
sense when you got the actors on site, especially a big production like this. It would be hard to recreate sets and all that
Right.
kind of
And they
stuff.
actually traveled out to actual desert instead of using a green screen or something like that. So,
Yeah, I watched some interviews and they just talked about how they used a lot of practical effects to really build these massive sets and film in the desert, and that it was a pretty grueling shoot, but
hmm
I think that the end result is definitely impressive.
Hmm.
yeah. So this first one is really near the end of what we assume to be the first movie. And then it takes us all the way back to the beginning where we've got Paul
Yep.
facing off with the Reverend Mother. So looking at this scene, I love like the wall of bookcases behind them, but like the chair that the Reverend Mother is in, like it just seems so like small and unassuming. I expected something a little more grandiose, I think.
Yeah, so this would be the library on Caladan, or at least one of the rooms on Caladan. It just looks so kind of cold and dark, which,
Hmm.
Well, I mean, Water Planet, I assume it's like space
hmm
Seattle, right?
yeah,
Hmm.
or
Yeah.
Vancouver, maybe.
Yeah. So maybe the sun doesn't come out a whole lot. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the color palette used throughout the trailer is kind of interesting because it's a lot of muted colors, but it's a lot of browns
Hmm.
and reds,
Yeah.
and which blue would be more of a water
Mm-hmm.
shade. So there's not a lot of blues in it.
Yeah, and
I assume
yeah, I was gonna say,
I assume that's a conscious choice too. But
yeah, you want to like, because you would say like like Caladan is his old life that he's leaving behind, and you want it to have this different
mhm,
feel. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
yeah,
We also get to see, I don't know, the pain box. Is it? I mean, does it have an actual
Hmm.
name?
I just thought it was the
A
box, but
box.
Yeah.
And then,
pain
yeah,
box. Yeah,
the Gom Jabbar looks different than I anticipated. I almost thought it would be like something worn around the finger, but it
I
looks,
always pictured it more as like a
Yeah.
thimble with
yeah.
a needle
Yeah.
attached.
That's kind of how I pictured it too.
But I mean, this could be like a crochet needle almost.
It's
Yeah.
But it does look like it's a.
Talk
I
about a
can't tell
hook.
if it's a ring on her finger and it's attached to it, or if it's just if she's
Oh,
holding it freehand. It's hard to tell with
Oh.
that finger kind of in the way. But
I think the very first Dune episode we did, I found a picture of like some of the initial like well they were trying to figure out the design, and I think it was something that went around the finger. So I think my in my brain I was expecting that, but no, I
yeah,
mean I'll be interested to
Hmm.
see. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, and then up next we have Paul sparring with Gurney. So we've got
with the
some,
shield
yeah,
fighting.
shield fighting. You got some Josh Brolin butt going on here.
Now, is that so? The vibration here kind of threw me off. I assumed it was the shields. Like, I mean, they
hmm
talk about like the sonic nature of them. I guess
Hmm
they're a little bit different. I was expecting more of a shield and not necessarily like a body cast. Like to
Oh,
me, I just
sure.
kind of pictured it as something like out in one arm.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I think the
So just
Hmm.
different than what I
yeah, I think the
expected.
basic technological principle is it's like a pack that you wear on your belt, and when you activate it, it like engulfs, like
It's a body
basically
shield.
protects your
Yeah,
Oh,
entire
okay.
body. Yeah.
I think it's like
Sure.
body armor without having to wear body armor. It's kind
Right.
of the principle
Hmm.
behind it.
But that being said, I enjoyed the like the shield effect. I thought it looked really cool. Um, so yeah. The next shot we have actually gives us what Caladan looks like, and I know I called it Space Seattle. This really doesn't look anything like Seattle.
That looks more like Scotland.
I mean, I wouldn't mind Space
Which
Scotland. That'd be cool.
no, I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's Space Ireland or Scotland. Scotland looks rockier. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go with Scotland. Looks like a
It
nice
does, yeah.
place.
Yeah, a lot of water.
And then you mentioned the color palettes, and so the next one is, what I assume is all of the Atreides forces and gear landing on Arrakis. So we can see like the
Yeah,
line of what I'm assuming is their army, their soldiers. And down on the lower right, I'm assuming this group that's walking out might be the Atreides family.
yeah. Well, to be curious, because you don't really see it here in the trailer, at least in the still, is the Guild Navigator ship. So all
Oh, yeah.
these, theoretically, all these ships sat on some giant Guild Navigator when they made the fold in space to
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
travel from Caladan to Arrakis. So, and look at the massive size of these ships too. I'm curious to see if they show us anything of the Guild Navigators or not.
So last week I rewatched the Dune miniseries from Sci-Fi. I think it was the early 2000s. This thing came out, and it actually started like the miniseries started with them already on the Guild freighter. So yeah,
Oh yeah,
so like the Reverend Mother went there, and like so you never see Caladan in that series. So that I thought that was kind of interesting, but
that could be a just a production choice too.
yeah,
That you wouldn't have to have a Caladan
yep,
set. You could just do everything
yeah,
in one set and probably reuse some of it on Arrakis.
yeah.
But
This next one,
yeah, because I remember it was kind of a big reveal in the
yeah,
'84 and Lynch's Dune too when you meet the Guild Navigator later. But they make kind of a big deal of how they fold space and travel.
right.
So
Uh, so this next one is something that I don't think happens in the book, but Duncan is there, looks like, to meet the Atreides family, and he like embraces Paul. I'm pretty sure that didn't happen
I don't remember that.
because I don't,
Not in the book.
I don't think Paul saw him until that like council meeting where he showed up with Stilgar. I think that was maybe the first time
Yeah.
Paul saw him.
'Cause I think that Duncan was still with the Fremen when they got
Yeah.
there. Was my recollection.
Yep.
And I'm assuming kind of the ship kind of behind them to the right might be an ornithopter
Oh yeah,
landed. That
that could be.
you see that later. And then kind of in the group of people kind of to the left, I don't know if the hooded figure with the big white hood, if that's Lady Jessica perhaps.
It looks like it could be like Benny Gesserit garb,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
Mm.
they've always been portrayed as kind of having these crazy takes on like these like these regal dresses and these regal outfits. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good call. I didn't even see that at first. I did notice that the two men running next to Duncan and Paul look an awful lot like Imperial officers from Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, they do.
In the next shot, we see the beast Raban.
Yeah. Dave
Dave
Bautista.
Batista.
But,
Drax the
yeah,
Destroyer.
yeah, I'll be interesting to see how much he's in the first movie because I know there's a few scenes where he and the Baron are in, they're have some scenes together, but it seems like they have a bigger part to play later. But,
Right.
but unless he's actually involved in the trap that the Harkonnen spring.
That could be.
And did.
Well, and they said
Go
that
ahead.
uh, he has a history with the planet too, so it's possible they weave in some like
That could
prior
be.
shots
Yeah,
too.
Oh yeah,
that's a good
that's
point.
yeah, because he was in charge or ran the planet prior.
Hmm.
So, and you have to wonder, did they just like tell him to stop tanning and like to stay out of the sun, or because dude looks a little pale. Also, like
Yeah.
the armor, like that almost looks like below the neckline. It almost looks like it's like almost cloth or like a soft armor, which is kind of an interesting.
Hmm.
Like a
Yeah,
nylon suit, yeah, or some sort of.
yeah.
Hmm.
So one thing they've been kind of holding close to the chest is the Baron, played by Stellan Skarsgard. We don't really see a lot of him. We see two shots, and this is the first one.
No.
and you just really see his head, and it looks like he's, I don't know if he's in like a sauna or a steam room or what's going on here, but it's one of the two shots in the trailer that we actually get to see him.
Yeah, this is about as much as we get to see, though, just
Yeah.
like the head and
Yep.
some of the neck. But I think that Stellan said that he was in makeup for like 6 or 8 hours,
Ooh,
6 hours, before filming each day.
I'm not shocked. I have a feeling
wow.
he's going to be like super large. The Dune miniseries, like the Baron was not super fat. Like he was a bigger guy, but he was not like grotesquely huge. So yeah. Next we get to see Yui, and we get to see the diamond on his forehead for the Imperial
Oh,
conditioning.
yeah. Sign
Yep.
of the Imperial conditioning.
And the next one is interesting. So, are these Harkonnen troops? Are they Atreides troops? Are they Sardaukar? The fact that they're in white
I don't know
kind of
because
makes me think maybe
yeah,
Atreides. The more I think about it.
yeah, and I think the Sardaukar would be wearing
Yeah.
Harkonnen colors, or because they weren't
Hmm.
supposed to be recognized as Sardaukar, but everybody seemed to know what they were.
Yeah.
Huh.
So we go a little bit further back, and what I assume this one is we see like Duncan fighting off what we assume are Harkonnen troops, and it almost kind of looks, if we jump back, it looks like that armor might actually match the armor from the previous screen. I'm
Oh, it
just
kind of
noticing
does,
that
yeah.
now, but maybe
Those
they
are
are, yeah.
Harkonnen
But
troops.
I'm assuming this is where Liette is ushering Paul and Jessica out, and Duncan bites the big one.
Hmm.
Hmm. Which we haven't seen Liette yet in these
No,
photos.
she makes. I
No,
say she because it is a
Oh,
female. They recast, or what do they call that? Regendered. They made Kynes a woman in the movie. We talked about that last time in our discussing Dune. But yeah, here we have a close up of the Reverend Mother, which
this looks like it's
it
back on
does.
Caladan though, but maybe it's not, or maybe there's a shot with the
Oh, that could
Emperor
be, yeah. But
that we haven't seen yet. And in the book that
right.
wouldn't have happened. We haven't actually seen the Emperor yet, but I know that she
Mm-hmm.
reports to him or keeps him
Yep.
in. You know, she doesn't report to him, but she's in
Yeah.
communication with him.
The next one is a shot of I'm gonna say it wrong. I'm gonna say Cheney because that's what they said in the Dune miniseries, but I know for a fact they pronounce it differently in this film. Is it
I
Chani
think
or
it's
Shawnee or
Chani.
something like that?
Shawnee would be my guess.
I think it's Chani, and Chani's how they had pronounced it in the
Yeah.
Lynch film too.
So there's another term that I've heard pronounced two ways, and that's either the Fedaykin or the Fedaykin, like the Fremen soldiers. So I'm not sure
Yeah,
which is correct, but
I've heard
Fedaykin
it both
sounds
ways.
right
yeah,
to me, but just because of
yeah.
Arrakeen and Arrakis, and I don't know.
The next one is a shot of Josh Brolin as Gurney Halleck, and I would assume this is during the attack.
I would think so. It seems like there's a lot of shots of kind of right around the attack. Well, and that'll be one of the big scenes in the first
Yeah.
movie, I think, is the
Yep.
trap is sprung.
Yeah. And then we get to see the second shot of the Baron Harkonnen. Looks like he's like taking a mud bath. Maybe this is before or after his sauna scene. I don't know.
Maybe.
But it
Which is
is. And they're
disturbing.
doing such a great job of just like masking what he's actually going to look like, which I like that. I
Yeah,
like the fact they're doing that.
it's gonna be like the shark in Jaws, where you get kind of these glimpses, but there'll be a full
Yeah.
reveal at some point. and then we're gonna need a bigger boat.
Right. Yes. So the next one, what I'm guessing is this is when Liet takes Leto and Paul out to witness the spice harvesting, and the worm gets the harvester.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I would say this is.
Yeah. I think that's right on.
That'd be the spice ship going down.
Yep. And they're on an ornithopter escaping.
Yep.
Yeah. We jump to a shot of Yui. Thoughts on this one?
I imagine this is when he's going to be taken before the Baron after he's betrayed
That would make sense.
Atreides.
That would make
Spoiler.
sense. Yeah.
Yep, I would agree with that.
Because I don't know, the whole head shave thing seems like it would be a Baron thing. So the Baron is bald.
It would.
The Beast Raban was bald. So I'm wondering if that's just a Harkonnen
And let's be
look.
honest, the good doctor looks a little nervous.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
Brian, you mentioned Liet. Sorry, Chip, did you have something else there?
Yes.
No, I was just going to
Yeah.
say, Brian, here's your
Yes.
reveal.
Yes.
Of,
Ah.
Yeah, I mean it's we have like a publicity shot or one of the shots from like maybe Empire magazine or something like that, and we showed that in our last discussion episode, and so you can see Liet in her still suit and the oh man, what do they call the cloaks? I forget now.
I remember.
It's
they use the term shroud.
it's unimportant anyway.
Yeah. I think this is a dramatic looking image. Just, you get all these reds and browns and then just a little bit of blue in the eyes. It's
a
pretty powerful look.
All right, up next. It's a little sobering.
Yeah.
So I think we've read this scene too, if it's the scene I think it is.
My assumption is this is where he comes across Mapes after she's been stabbed.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
what I was
good
thinking.
guess. Yeah, that looks about right.
And then the next one, I think, is later on after Liet gets them out of the whatever installation they're in, and he's like, "You got to fly through the storm." That's what this says to me.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's my guess.
They look like they're about to jump to light speed or something like that.
Yeah. They're strapped in and ready to roll.
And they are not all smiles.
No. In fact, Jessica looks like she's about to pass out.
Well, I mean, she is pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
The next one's kind of interesting. So I'm curious, before I say my thoughts, if you have the same thought here.
That reminds me of when I used to eat the cereal Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and at the end of the box, you'd pour it out into your bowl, and that's exactly what it looks like.
I think that's
can
what they
taste
used
the
for the
cinnamon.
effect was they just bought a bunch of boxes of Cinnamon Toast Crunch and
Probably.
crushed them down into powder and
This scene was sponsored by Kellogg's
yeah.
or whoever made it, General Mills, whatever.
General Mills. It's one of the two.
Yeah.
It looks like though there's some like darker elements to the sand, and I'm wondering if that's the spice or the melange.
I think it's gotta
If
be.
they're like, yeah,
Well, they talked about it tasting like cinnamon, so I did picture like a darker brown color for cinnamon.
Yeah.
and this is just maybe my brain, but I always kind of thought like the spice should be blue because it made your eyes blue, but
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
But then it would taste like raspberries or something. No.
Snozzberries.
well, it's almost October, maybe
Or
Frankenberries.
elderberries.
Oh, Frankenberries, yes. I sense a spin.
There we go.
Because if they said that they made people smell like elderberries, then we would go full Holy Grail on them. And
But only your father.
yeah.
All right, next.
Yeah, I'm interested. Yes. Before we derail the entire
Yes,
conversation.
Yeah. Cinnamon Toast Crunch and
mm,
elderberries.
num num.
Yes.
No, sorry. So we have, this looks like Idaho's reunion after he realizes Paul made it out
Mm-hmm.
safely.
The whole my Duke scene, yeah. And it looks like
Mm-hmm.
he's still suited up here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's, and you have to assume, well, I guess my assumption is based on this next one, and you kind of touched on this, Chip. It's like kind of a surprise that they showed the worm,
Mm-hmm.
but I have a couple ideas of which scene this might be.
Well, I think it's one that if you've done your reading for
Yep.
our next discussion, I think this is where it happens.
Yeah. Because prior to doing this reading, I was thinking it was the worm that got their thopter before they lost the pack.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm like,
Yeah.
well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's
No, I think especially when there's just two figures in it. But my only thought here is the worm is very impressive, but in that scene in the book, I think it's Paul that mentions that the diameter of the mouth is like 80,
yeah,
and
he
that
does.
does not look 80 meters to
No.
me. But it could be a small specimen. What's interesting is how much it looks like an eyeball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a design choice too.
And
Yeah, because there's things that we'll read later that
right.
kind of hint at what the worms really are and
Yeah. Well,
the power of the worm.
and we're making an assumption here that this is Paul and this is Jessica. And if we
Yeah.
pop to the next
So,
screen, we can kind of see, it's either Paul telling his mother to hurry up or vice versa. I mean, I think that's kind of the assumption there. They're trying to get to the rocks.
the rocks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it closes with the Dune logo, which I think is really cool. I like it. I mean, it's
How it's
Mm-hmm.
each shape is the
Yeah.
same, and then
that's really neat. And in the trailer, it animates and it's really slick looking. So
Yeah.
their marketing team clearly did a great job.
Yeah, and I don't know who like the graphic designers and
Yeah.
stuff are, but did you see Arrival? Villeneuve's one of his other movies,
I did not.
the one with Amy Adams, and it's like there's like
Yeah, yeah.
aliens, but they use kind of a symbolic, or
Yes.
they use like symbology as a way to speak. But that reminded me those scenes where the aliens are writing and things are kind of
Yes.
spiraling and moving. It kind of reminded me of the what's happening behind.
So
the
when you
hidden
say
letters
when you
and
say symbology to speak, is it like Darmok and Jalad at Tenegra?
Chaco
nice
in the walls.
TNG callback.
All right. So I don't know. Yeah. Overall, this looks like it's following the book really closely based on assumptions we're making.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited.
But I think it looks so grand and impressive, and I think that's because of the practicality of the way they filmed it. It's not just going to be a big CGI
Right.
fest. They were actually in the desert, in the sand, in the elements when they filmed it, so I think that's going to pay off.
Yeah, and it seems to almost have that same like majestic, grandiose scope and feel to it that the Lord of the Rings trilogy had.
Yeah, I hope so. So I'd be curious, Brian, since you haven't seen any of the other movies or properties that they've made out of it, what are your thoughts the first time you see some of these characters brought to life,
Oh,
in a visual format?
I actually was pretty good with what I saw. I mean, every once in a while I see a trailer and I'm like, ooh, that doesn't jive with what I read before, or it just doesn't like invoke the same imagery. this feels pretty close. I mean, we did a pretty good job early on in the podcast talking about a lot of the characters were influenced by, Western politics and religion and Eastern politics and religion, and kind of like the transition from the water world to the desert, and like kind of what that looked like. And so I actually was not surprised, which is a good thing. I saw the trailer and I thought this really fits the narrative of like what I was expecting this to look like. So from my perspective, that's a good thing. Um, I will say that there are some things like the worm that looked really, really great on the screen. And I just felt like they did a great job of actually highlighting that, because that kind of was the thing that drew you in, because there was so much that was going on. They almost seemed to linger longer on that worm scene. Like, this is like the main focal point. Let's
Mm-hmm.
draw people in with this. And I thought it worked really well. And with the music choice and everything, it actually made for a really enticing trailer.
Yeah. I like the fact that uh, the actor playing Paul, Timothy Chalamet, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds right.
He actually looks like he could be a kid.
He
He has
does.
the presence of somebody older, but he has the look of
So
a
like
teenager.
Lynch's film, McLaughlin. I mean, he was young, but I don't think he looked like he was 15. The
No, because I think he was like 25
yeah,
or so when they
the
filmed
Dune
it.
miniseries cast Alec Newman, and he looked like he was in his 20s as well. So I like the fact that this believably looks like he could be 15. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and he's got Poe Dameron for a dad, and
At least for a while.
Thanos teaches him how to fight.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And Aquaman's there
yeah,
too.
or Khal Drogo, whichever way you want to go.
We're crossing all
And
sorts of universes. So you
and
got
Dax
Star
is
Wars,
there
the
to mix
DC
it up.
universe, and the Marvel universe all
Yeah,
wrapped
Yeah.
up in one
that's
movie.
true. So yeah, Dune.
Hmm.
Well, and Spider-Man's girlfriend.
Right.
His mom was in Mission Impossible.
Hmm.
One of the mission, one or two of them.
So this
Cool.
Yeah, I
is
forgot about, yeah. Johnny was in
yeah.
Spider-Man.
So this is coming out in December, like right around Christmas. Is that right?
I think it's somewhere in
Okay.
there, like the 18th, I want to say.
So
December 18th.
hopefully
Yeah.
COVID will allow us to view it. Hopefully, if things are not much
Or we have
better,
still suit technology so that we can go see it
yes.
in the theaters.
Or they might do like a buy it to view at home type thing, like they did with
Mm-hmm.
Mulan and things like that. Which I would be surprised if something of this magnitude they opted to go that route. But
The way they released Nolan's most recent movie, Tenet, it was a limited run in theaters. I think it's made 300 million worldwide, but
yeah,
only like 40 million
yeah,
domestic. But I know that it's playing in theaters around here, so I would assume that
sure,
they'll do something similar with
Well,
Dune.
and that trailer that dropped, I mean, it dropped recently, and at the very end, the last 3 seconds, it actually says only in theaters. So
okay,
I'm guessing they're going to try to do it just in theaters.
And with the amount of effort and money I'm sure they put into this, it's intended to be seen on a big screen. It's got to be, it's
yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
and that's how they're going to make their money back. And I imagine that this is going to have. I would hope that this has a good worldwide appeal. It seems like sci-fi and
I
superhero
think it
movies do really well in the
should.
Asian
Yeah,
markets, and
I hope so.
I would hope so
So,
too.
well, this has been our first ever trailer dissection. Not like, you know what I mean. So, thank
Dissect, dissect,
thank you
dissect.
everybody for tuning in. We would love to hear your thoughts on the trailer, so please utilize the comments section below. We also appreciate likes. We appreciate subscriptions. And if you're super jazzed about watching the three of us talk every week, there's a little bell down there that you can click, which is a notification bell, and that will let you know whenever we post new content. As always, it was a pleasure, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Allons-y.